Here's the worst thing about every movie genre. Every movie genre has that one thing that consistently sets the tone for all other movies of that same genre, and it equivocally puts them in that box of what it means to make said movie.
Let's go.
Action movies have perfected the way to make a $200 million fight scene look like it was filmed in someone's backyard on a camcorder. And that's to be expected because they want the movie to feel real and intense and awesome, when in actuality they take some of the best cameras and the best sets and the best actors and make everything so jaggedy and so fast-paced and, all this motion blur and you can't see anything and virtually, what they say, too many good things can really make a movie bad. Bourne Supremacy nearly has 3,800 cuts in the entire movie. That is literally 1.9 cuts every second. See what I mean by saying too many things that are good can actually make a movie really bad? There's also a scene in Taken 3 where someone jumps over a fence and there's literally 14 cuts in the matter of 6 seconds for one single fence jumping scene.
Are you serious?
The problem with other action movie lovers too is they like the same slop that just happens over and over again. Did you see that this person is in trouble by someone and they need to rescue them and they end up doing it? There are so many explosions and gunshots and action-packed sequences that you are going to love. Let me guess, some involve like vehicle explosions? Some involve the best vehicle explosion. Also, action movie lovers are just adrenaline junkies that pride themselves on caffeine addiction not being a real addiction. They are so obsessed with getting that adrenaline feeling of like the sneaking up scenes, the scenes where there's explosions, the kind of jump scare scenes. They're just these adrenaline junkies that only find joy on things that make them scared and nervous. My biggest problem with action movie people is that they're so obsessed with these characters that they almost become their role models. And you're not gonna be Jason Bourne, you're not gonna be someone of like action movie ascent, you're probably just a middle-aged man working an office job who watches shows like The Punisher and The Equalizer and are like, dude, if anyone came up to me like that, I'd kill it, dude, I'd break the... You're all bark and no bite. Most action movie people are all bark and no bite. You go to karate, you get a black belt in it, and you never touch it ever since. The most action you've actually ever done is maybe airsoft and maybe paintball.
Why you bullying me?
But horror movie people are no different, as the actual sequence of a horror movie is literally the same the entire time. The fake out jump scare scene is like throughout the entire movie. You open the medicine cabinet up, no one's there, you close it, someone's behind you in the reflection. Oh my God. You close the door, you see someone's behind you, they look away, no one's there, they look back, they're in front of you. Oh my God. How? You run away from something, you think that you've lost them, you really do, and you get back in your car, and inside the car, there they are. Oh my God. It's the same thing every time. Virtually every horror movie that you watch, you can actually predict when it's going to be the fake out jump scare, the fake out jump scare, or the infamous fake out, the fake out, and then you get another fake out, then the jump scare. They're almost the most predictable movies for being known in the industry as the most unpredictable genre. There's also so many mini variations of horror movies that even just get worse the more you watch them as they go down. You have things like jump scare horror movies like Paranormal Activity and, creepy crawly movies. And then you just have like slasher movies where there's just murders. There's no actual plot, it's just like murders. Scream movies or like, Jason Voorhees movies, Halloween movies, things like that. All those things just all have the same plot point, which is like just a bunch of murder and just a bunch of fake out adrenaline things. These people are similar to the action movie junkies, but the adrenaline rush is from like wanting to scream your head off like you're going to die, not like, oh my God, what's going to happen next. Also, horror movie fans I found are really niche and they have like conventions, they have so many different things. I don't think there's like an action movie convention. You're gonna go to a horror con, you're gonna go to a horror fest. These people are usually obsessed with Halloween. Also, every horror fanatic that I've met has a undoubtedly weird amount of horror t-shirts. You're not obsessed with adrenaline, you're obsessed with thinking you're going to die. And that's weird. Horror movies are also just notoriously known for being engagement slop, and what I mean by that is there are some movies where it's literally a jump scare every 8 to 10 minutes to keep the flow and pacing of you being engaged by keeping you afraid.
How? Hold on, bro. How?
Next we have romantic movies, and the problem with romantic movies is it's essentially 80 minutes of just lies. And by lies, I mean the film inherently lies throughout the entire story, and then also you go through life believing that's how love is for 80 minutes of your life. And by 80 minutes of your life, I mean 8 years. Every 1 minute that happens in a romantic movie is 1 year you spend in your life being delusional. So if you catch someone watching a bunch of romantic movies all the time, chances are they're gonna be delulu for roughly 15 to 16 years. This is counteractive if you show them a comedy, but not a romantic romantic comedy. You gotta do like Happy Gilmore. If you do 50 First Dates, you're adding 0.5 years. Romantic movies also just tie in with rom-coms, so I'm pretty much gonna put them in the same category because they're virtually the same formula, just spit out with a couple of jokes. People meet, there's chemistry, then there's some obstacles, then they're together. And that's the end. Go watch any romantic movie or romantic comedy. That is literally the formula. You meet, you have chemistry, there's some obstacles, and they end up being together. You could say that's every movie if it wasn't, because it's not. Look at every single Adam Sandler rom-com. Or how about you mix it up a little bit? Obstacle, chemistry, meet someone together. Let's mix it up again. Be together. Obstacle, meet someone, chemistry, meet someone, obstacle, together. It's the same spit out formula over and over and over again, and all they do is take one part of it and move it to the end and take another part of it and move it to the beginning, and you could be like, bro, that's how all movies work. It's just not. Also, all rom-coms and romantic movies follow the same structure of time because you really cannot make a movie over 90 minutes or let alone 80 minutes of romantic comedy stuff because it gets boring so quick. So you have to make the movies actually really short so the people don't lose interest. Romantic comedies, like I said before, also provide this delusional state of like, this is how love is supposed to be, and like, it's supposed to be funny and kind of climactic, and there's these obstacles, and these obstacles are okay. Losing someone to another person in a movie and then getting them back and calling it part of the plot is one of the dumbest things people can think reality is today.
Boom, roasted.
Next, we have sci-fi movies, which are just the king of explaining a bunch of things for 40 minutes and then like one big action thing happens and then the movie's over. Am I gonna give you a bunch of examples? No, because sci-fi movies are stupid. The only one I really liked was Nope by Jordan Peele. I don't even know if you can classify that as a sci-fi movie. The biggest problem with sci-fi fans is that they obsess over the movies like every group, but there's so many theories. There are so many theories because you involve science in it for 1 second and it's like, bro, but the molecular structure of the aliens, they could not possess the wielding of a gun like that. It's not real, bro. It's made up. It's a fiction movie. The aliens are not real. The second you bring science in it, you have unks who got an undergrad in psychology and sociology and an astrophysics master's, and suddenly they know everything about things that aren't real. The great thing about movies is that they're not real, but when you have a theory about it, it's like, oh, I see what you're saying, a little imagination. The problem with sci-fi movie theories is that people think because that there's science involved, it means that your theories can have actual substance to like the real world. How are you gonna explain the sci-fi theory of aliens in the attic? I also think sometimes sci-fi fans are just like fake smart to where they watch a bunch of sci-fi movies, they understand the structure of science from like a 3rd grade level. The only sci-fi movie that I think actually works, but I'm still gonna dog on, is The Matrix. Because there's so much actual realism to it that we could actually structure into a real world scenario if hit the fan. The problem with The Matrix is that Morpheus explains to Neo when Neo does not even know what's going on, but the viewer then knows, so then you essentially just know the entire movie.
We do not care.
The problem with superhero movies is nothing is ever real anymore. At least with some movies, you're filming on location and everything's great. With superhero movies, everything's on a giant green screen, everything is CGI, and no actor's actually acting in their suit. They're just doing voiceovers with a stunt double in a suit acting doing stunts. It's stupid. Avengers, Batman v Superman, any Spider-Man movie ever, any single Marvel movie ever, Thanos, purple big man. It's not real. It's all fake. It's all this like CGI slop of just, bro, how can we make the craziest effect in a computer? You're literally watching computer generated visuals, which you could say, bro, all movies have special effects. Oh yeah? Are all movies 90% special effects? Wait a minute. The reason why this happens with superhero movies is the scripts are never really decided on until like the movie's done. And by that, I mean they create generic scripts with generic plot lines so they can just add in a bunch of battle sequences and then they connect the dots of where things are gonna go. I literally feel like Avengers Endgame, they filmed all the fight scenes ahead of time and then decided how they were gonna connect the fight scenes into the actual storyline of the film. Everything like an action movie, it's just dopamine, adrenaline, but with superhero movies like Marvel, you kinda need a little bit of story if you want to keep your pockets fat and people going to the sequels, the reboot sequels. Who wants to see Rocket the Raccoon with Spider-Man? I don't know, but you have to watch all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies that have no story but a lot of fight scenes and a little bit of the Spider-Man movies to get that. Some good contrast examples of good superhero movies, in my opinion, even though there's a lot of CGI in them still, are like the Batman movies and like the Logan movie, like basic Wolverine concept movies. Yes, special effects, I know the noise are not coming out of his fist in real life, but It is semi-realistic as it is an actual human acting, doing things, and not in a mechanical suit or masked suit. Also, superhero fans are like really cringe. I'm so sorry. I love superhero movies. I'm cringe. I watch Spider-Man. I'm cringe sometimes too. It's this weird like obsession over the plot of the movie when 80% of the movie is action movie sequences and 20% is the plot. And superhero movie people are like scraping the edges of the film where there's no story because they're only getting action and being like, that scene with Thanos and when Spider-Man, when just let him kick Venom's ass, bro. Also, if you only watch superhero movies, you are like the person who hates on every other movie genre, but if anyone decides to touch your movie genre, you're like the most offensive. Next, we have dramas. The problem with dramas is it's just like a full movie of confusion, and there's maybe a sequel and then it's just more confusion, and you never get the ending until it's like the third or fourth movie or like fifth or sixth season. The average drama movie in 1994 was 112 minutes. The average now is 137 minutes. What the f is the 25 plus added minutes in those? Just confusion. It's just fluff. The also problem with drama movies is they try to be so filmically different by doing these long take shots, or there's always these like long sequences of like, you see they did that in one take? Yeah, I was falling asleep. I don't remember it. Drama movies are like a jack of all trades, but master of none. They hit so many pinpoints of like emotion, look, and like vibe, but when you want to put a drama movie up against any other movie, it always loses because it doesn't have any of the other quintessentials. Dramas can be watched in the background and know exactly what's going on, but you can also stare at your screen for 2 hours and waste time when you could have been doing literally anything else that's productive. But don't get me wrong, sometimes dramas have those emotions that the longer it is, it makes you feel better because you're getting more of the story. But sometimes dramas are just run by directors who are like, let's see how long we can make this film, make people watch it. If you're a drama movie lover, you don't exist. You're one of the bots that watched it and are leaving a comment defending drama movies. I've never found someone who is like, my favorite genre of movies is drama. Next, we have comedy movies, and listen, I love a good comedy. I'm a sucker for a good comedy, so this one hurts, but I gotta hand it to them. There's too much improv. There's too much of this like, I'm gonna make something funny. And when you're working with multiple people and the director's like, yeah, just riff off each other, just riff. And then you riff for like 30 minutes and you get 3 minutes of usable footage. I feel like that sucks for the people that are filming. I mean, the viewer might get the best moments, but comedy movies I feel like have a little too much improv because no one knows how to write a funny joke because you gotta be a little bit politically correct, and no one knows how to riff a joke because riffing a joke isn't really a common thing anymore. Everything's on cue cards, everything's written. I mean, hell, look at SNL now. When you look at new media of comedy movies or comedy TV shows, it's definitely more scripted, and when it's riffed off each other, it doesn't really work that well. But when you take a show like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, a lot of that riffing is really good because the chemistry of the cast, but also back in that day, you like had to be funny or the show was gonna get canceled. Nowadays, if you're not funny, and the show probably won't get canceled because you'll just push more money. Back then, they didn't really have that much money. I also think comedy movies are for people that are like wannabe comedians, people that like really want to be up on stage and like maybe they write a couple jokes down from this, but like most of the time people that watch comedy strictly are like the unfunny person who like will laugh at anything. And that's what they're for. They're for people who are not funny. Comedy movies today will make a joke about like the dumbest thing ever and they will get laughs because people are unfunny. So yes, comedy movies are for people who are unfunny. If you like comedy movies, you're unfunny. Damn. The problem with thrillers is every movie has to have a mandatory twist at the end, or it is not classified as a thriller. It's just an action or horror movie. Psychological thrillers, horror thrillers, thriller by Michael Jackson. There's always a twist, you know? I'd expect those zombies to dance. The problem with thrillers as well is it's such a cop-out to get more watches because when you do the mandatory twist, it then leads the brain and the viewer to go, wait, why did I not see this coming? I have to rewatch it to understand it. And then you get more views on the movie, more people watch it, and more people watch it more frequently because they want to uncover where that twist was laid. And in some cases, it is laid out, and in some cases, it's not, and that's the exact reason they want the twist, so you then go and rewatch it. This happens because most audiences just love twists in movies, and studios see that when people love twists, they're just gonna do it more and more and more. It's just twist slop. It's contradictory slop. It's the worst slop of the slop history. There's so much slop of it that it's virtually no slop. It's sloptacular. People who watch thrillers, I think, just are in uncommittal relationships constantly and exceptional at love bombing because they love the twist. You can tell a lot about someone when they say their favorite movie is thrillers because they just want to be lied to. They just want to like go to therapy and like tell the therapist a plot that's not even real and then just twist it for them in their own life. The problem with Westerns, and specifically modern Westerns, is it's never about the West and everything about gunslinging, fighting, love, and like trying to be a Western. I'll leave the Django Unchained as an exception because it was meant to not be a Western as a Western, so we're not going to talk about that. But new Westerns compared to old Westerns actually suck, primarily because I think everyone's tired of the Western look, so they're trying to like not do the Western look, but in turn, that just doesn't make it a Western. And then people who are like fanatics about Western movies hate it because it's not a Western. If you're going to do a Western movie, do a fucking Western. Make them cowboys. Make them against other people. Make the gunslinging cool. I think there's also this like two different column of like true Western fans who are like super annoying, who will like be of 70 years old or plus, being like, these new Westerns ain't what they used to be. The Lone Ranger, these ain't what they used to be. And they're right. I'm going to side with the unks and the old heads on this one. The new age of Westerns sucks so bad because they're too afraid to do the old Western because it's been done too many times. Look at every romantic comedy and thriller and tell me something hasn't been done enough. Once you do as many classical Westerns today as people have done thriller twists and horror movie twists and romantic comedy same plotline things, you can stop with the Westerns. Western obsessions are just people who are likely born in the wrong generation. Yeah, I just feel like directors are embarrassed to tell a classic Western story because, I don't know, political correctness, it's been done too many times. If you make a classic Western, the old heads are gonna care, but old heads aren't really going to movies that frequently, and the new heads are gonna be like, bro, I would have watched old Westerns, but if you make a new age Western, the old heads are gonna be like, everything's changed and the world is going to shit, and like, all these new age kids don't know how to make a real Western. So it's like, no matter what, when you make a Western, you're going to lose 50% of the fan base, guaranteed, because each person on the spectrum is so clenched to their idea of a Western that you'll never be able to make anyone happy. The problem with musicals that are made into movies is it's just a smorgasbord of everyone who's famous who can't sing in a movie at once. It's all typecasting, and then when the movie sucks, everyone just like closes their eyes, acting like it didn't happen. But the biggest problem with musical movies is they do so good. That's the problem, and that might be a bad problem to have. However, you can never like reboot them because once it's done, it's done. Like once a movie is made from musical, it's really hard to do a reboot. The only time I've seen it done successfully was Mamma Mia. The reboot of Mamma Mia was pretty good, but you can't like redo Les Mis because it's been done and it was executed perfectly, but that leaves no room to like do a Les Mis 2 or like a Les Mis reboot because Les Mis made like $442 million, okay? It absolutely smashed the box offices and it was a good musical movie. Sometimes my problem with musical movies is I wish it was just a movie. I understand it's a musical. When I'm watching it, I'm like, man, I love how this scene is going. And it's like, I'm about to sing. And I'm like, 2 minutes and 35 seconds of singing. But the main trope is when you have like a famous actor singing like Emma Stone in La La Land, it just doesn't feel real because we know Emma Stone can't sing. And so we see her just lip syncing, and that takes away the entire emotional connection because you know that actor who is typecasted, even though they're a good actor, how do you know they're a good musical actor? Because those are two different things, and you kind of have to blend the two. The problem with musical movie fans is they are so particular, kind of like how book snobs are to when the movie's made out, like the Harry Potter stuff. But those people are kind of okay because they understand that a book cannot be a movie. Also, theater kids who are obsessed with these musicals will critique everything in the movie that it got wrong from the musical, and they won't actually let a common moviegoer who like doesn't really know much about the musical but like appreciates it, they won't let them watch it without being like, did you know that this scene is actually done this way? It's like, do not care, bro. Sorry you were the understudy for a character and never got it, but you don't gotta tell me how it happened. Close the yearbook, buddy. Second to last, we have animated movies, and the problem with animated movies is they have these like pop culture references that will just expire in a year, but making them at that time is like the funniest thing in the world. Like in the movie Shark Tale from 2004, they had a Godfather reference and they like made Snoop Dogg references and stuff, and it was like, no one's gonna remember that in 10 years, let alone 20 years. People, I did not know what the Godfather was in '04. I was sucking my binky. But they're so obsessed with making these pop culture references because they believe every animated film because in the past, as has happened, animated films become classics and people assume, well, we can make a classic. We can make classic jokes that people are going to remember forever. Some contrast examples of when animated movies really did work and lasted the test of time is like Toy Story. That was incredible because it didn't really have as many jokes that were dated. It studied a classic character trope and it followed just a classic plot of a kid getting rid of his toys, but his toys are secretly talking. Animated movie people are on the same side as Disney adults. You have people that are 40 watching them and you have people that are 8 watching them, and oddly enough, they both act the same. An 8-year-old watching an animated movie will be the same way as a 40-year-old watching a movie. It's just that the 40-year-old has the complex dialogue to get into an argument that annoys the at you, and an 8-year-old just knows how to cry, whine, and be sad when his favorite character dies. Also, the problem with the animated movie genre is they try to appeal to a wide audience when it really is just made for kids or freak adults. But when they advertise this movie, they're like, it's made for parents too. Parents can come along, and then it's not. You just have to legally take your kid with you to the movie theater because you're their parent. Hey, we made this movie for kids, but we got some dirty jokes in here. And lastly, the very end. Fantasy movies are awesome, and this is why they suck. Like sci-fi movies where you have to explain kind of what's going on and then they like go into action, fantasy movies, they explain something to you and you better remember it because it's going to be on a quiz in 30 minutes and you're not going to know what's going on because you needed to remember how the ring system worked or how the wand system worked or how the actual characters react to certain things. You have to remember it. With sci-fi movies, you can be like, hey, these are aliens. They came from outer space and they have a big beam that you got to watch out for. It's like that. And then you get the details with the sci-fi snobs. But fantasy movies are like, we have this system of how things work. And if you don't remember it, you will not know what's going on. You got like Lord of the Rings, you got The Hobbit, you got The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You got Harry Potter, you got another movie I'm going to show on screen. There's just so much explaining to these films. And if you do not remember it, the fans of those movies are going to be like, oh, are you even watching? Are you even paying attention? No, I didn't remember that Gandalf went blah, 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 blah. I was watching this epic fight scene while they were explaining how the whole village works. And then apparently the village somehow ties into the ending with the giant dragon who mysteriously explodes because 2 minutes and 34 seconds, they said if the dragon flies to the corner of the screen, it's going to explode. It's like, why would I need to know that? I'm looking at a centaur and someone who's using wands, and I'm looking at a fat guy with a big old beard who said you're a wizard, Harry. Like, I'm watching too many things right now. Fantasy movies also work because they have this continuous following of like mystery, and that's why they can make so many different versions and reboots of the same film because they can just be like, well, I know we told you this, but what about his secret half-brother? Well, I know we didn't mention that in any of the movies, but we have this now. I do like how modern fantasy movies do this thing where like every 10 minutes it feels like this teacher is like coming to my screen being like, hey, did you remember what happened in the last 5 minutes of the movie? Because they realized that when you explain everything in like a one sentence and they expect to remember it 5 movies down the line, and by the way, these movies were made in 3-year increments, so like of course you're gonna forget what happened in movie 1 3 years later. They do this thing now where they're like, hey you, do you remember back in movie 1 where we said this? They're adapting. I give them points for that. Knowing the problem of all of these genres doesn't have to ruin the way you look or watch movies. And if anything, it'll actually help you watch movies in a different kind of light. Because once you see these kinds of patterns happening in all your favorite films, when you see a movie that breaks that pattern, it actually feels more enjoyable to watch. Because you're understanding all these tropes and patterns that these movies kind of have to follow. When someone goes against the grain, it's totally rewarding because you're like, that's different. That's a movie I want to watch. And that is what makes a good film. Taking what is supposed to happen and break it, and always wanting to do something new and different while still following the basic construct. A lot of the times you need simple and predictable movies for complex and out-of-the-box ones to become a thing. It's not all about watching the most complex movie, it's mostly just about watching the movie that you enjoy, and I hope you continue to do so.